Hey, shalom everyone. We are in the days before Tisha B'Av and focusing on topics that have to do with the theme of the day. And one of the very fascinating themes is chesed. Chesed, of course, is something good, and the issue of Beis HaMikdash is pertinent. But what is the connection between the two? There's a fascinating story that is quoted in Avos Rabbi Nosson Perek Daled. Avos Rabbi Nosson is an enlargement of Pirkei Avos, just found in the Chasa. And over there it's recorded a story with Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Yochanan ben Zakkai was, as we all know, in the generation of the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was walking along, and Rabbi Yeshua, who was his Talmud, was walking behind him. And they came to a place where they were able to see the destroyed Beis HaMikdash. It was relatively recently destroyed, and the pain was very raw. And Rabbi Yeshua let out a big sigh. And he said, woe to us that this place is destroyed, the place where Am Yisrael got a kapara with the korbanos on a regular basis. So Yochanan ben Zakkai responded with a fascinating statement, and he said, "B'ni al yerelach," said, "Don't feel bad. Yesh lanu kapara achas sheikamosa." Don't feel bad about the fact that we're lacking the kapara, because we have another kapara which is on par with the kapara of what the Beis HaMikdash provided. Which is that? Said Yochanan ben Zakkai. He said, and here I stop in the middle of his quote. I'm not used to doing this, but I just want to realize the impact of what he's about to say. He's about to say that we have something else which is on par with the kapara that the Beis HaMikdash gave. And what could that be? So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, that is doing chesed. Shenemar ki chesed chafatzti v'lo zavach. Baruch says his desire is in chesed, and that puts it on par with the kapara of the Beis HaMikdash. It's an unbelievable statement. And therefore, these days, when we are contemplating the destroyed Beis HaMikdash and what our part in it can be, I think it's very appropriate to be focusing on the topic of chesed. So we're going to try to bring this a little bit closer to practicality. I'll start off with a question that Yoni asked me. Yoni is a boy who learned by me yeshiva back in the day. I was giving a shir in 11th grade, and he was in my shir for the year, and then he went on to finishing high school and going to a yeshiva gdola, and then he learned how to become an accountant, learned accounting. And then he got drafted by the army, drafted by Tzahal. So in Tzahal, he was working as an accountant, because Tzahal needs not only pilots and paratroopers, they also need, thank you very much, they also need people who are going to take care of the finances and direct Tzahal what to do with their monies. So he was working as an accountant in Tzahal, and he kept a connection with me because he lives near me, and he used to come over Shabbos afternoons and learn together. So one time he asked me the following question. He said, "What should I do? Life is boring. Life is monotonous. There's nothing to look forward to at all." Every day he gets up, davens in the 6 o'clock minyan. It's pretty early. After that, he has 10 minutes and he learns a little bit Chafetz Chaim. Then he travels and goes to the army base, and he works all day in accounting, which is a topic which is that it's very boring. He found it very boring. That's what he learned, so he had no choice, so that's what you got to do. But he was bored by it all day. Towards the end of that long, boring day, he davened Mincha and Ma'ariv on base, traveled back home, did a little bit unwinding, and went to sleep, and that's it. And he had the same schedule the next day, same schedule the next day, same schedule the next day. He signed up for 3 years of army duty, and he asked me, what am I supposed to do? Life is so boring. It's monotonous. There's nothing to look forward to. There's no way to break out of the rigid structure that life is providing. What should he do? Is that a good question? Oh my gosh. Okay. So I told Yoni, before we give an answer, let's try to figure out what kind of an answer would be appropriate. Would the answer be giving you some kind of an inspirational talk? So, not really. Why not? Inspiration doesn't last. The human heart, is not built to retain inspiration for the long term. Inspiration is something that lasts for a half hour or an hour or a day, week. That's it. It's gone. It's finished. Inspiration is gone. So if I give him some inspirational talk, he's going to perhaps be inspired for a little bit, but it's not going to be a long-term solution. So what could be a long-term solution? So the answer is like this. The answer we came up with is, I got to teach him how to create his own inspiration. If he's going to be getting inspiration from me, then it's going to be wearing off quite quickly. But if I teach him how to create his own inspiration, then it's a different ballgame. Mashal, this would be similar to my giving someone a present, laptop computer. Is that a nice present? Yeah, great. What's special about a laptop more than a home computer? Because a laptop you can bring wherever you want. You're not limited to a certain place. It has a battery, so you can go wherever you want and work on it. And how long does battery last? Well, an hour, 2 hours, 5 hours, 2 hours. So that's it. So I gave a present which is going to only last a few hours? No, because I also gave a recharger. That recharger enables when the energy goes out of the battery, plug it in wherever it is, and it puts another few hours, and you can keep recharging. That's the significance of present of a laptop. That's what I need to teach Yoni. I need to teach Yoni not an inspirational insight, but rather how to create his own inspiration. That's the answer. So how does one create his own inspiration? One of the beautiful sentences that I've seen, and I do not know the source, but it's one that I find very meaningful in my life, is the following. The path to excellence is not in doing extraordinary things. It is in doing ordinary things extraordinarily well. Right? The path to excellence is not in doing extraordinary things, and to attain excellence, you don't have to go to some mountaintop and do a spodidus for a week, but rather whatever it is that you're doing, you have to do well. You have to do with a depth. You have to do with an appreciation. The path to excellence is not in doing extraordinary things. It is in doing ordinary things extraordinarily well. Let's figure out how this would apply to Yoni and to every single one of us in our life. The Nefesh HaChaim, written by Reb Chaim Volozhiner, the Talmud of Lilui Nishmas. And in the introduction to Nefesh HaChaim, the introduction written by his son, who succeeded him as Rosh Hashiva of Volozhin, Raizel writes that he heard from his father many times the following sentence. He said, a person is created not for himself, but in order to help out other people. That's the essence of a person's existence. How can we be there to help out other people? That's what Reb Chaim Volozhiner used to regularly say. I think I have a source for it in a Gemara. The Gemara says in Sota Daf Yudalad that we find in the Torah tchilasik midus chasadim, v'sofak midus chasadim. The Torah begins with chesed and ends with chesed. It begins with chesed that Vayas Hashem la'adam ulishta kosnas arva yalbishem. Hashem made for Adam and Chava clothes to be wearing, and it ends off with chesed by Baruch Sabagai that Moshe Rabbeinu was buried. Hashem buried Moshe Rabbeinu in Har Nevo where he was buried. So providing clothes is a chesed, and burying one who dies is a chesed. So the Torah starts off with chesed and ends off with chesed. That's what the Gemara says. The Maral Miprag on the spot, Chidush HaGodos on the spot, says, why is this significant? Why is it important to point out that the beginning and the end of the Torah is with Midus Chasadim? Says the Maral, because the main essence of things is expressed in the beginning and in the end. And if the Torah starts with chesed and ends with chesed, so it comes to show you that chesed is the essence of what Torah is all about. So that would be a source for what Reb Chaim Volozhiner said, that this is the essence of a person, it's the essence of what life is all about. I was very touched by a story that I heard about Reb Chaim Kreiswirth. Chaim Kreiswirth Zatzal was the chief Rabbi of Antwerp in Belgium, and he had an apartment here in Arnold in Rehov Agassi. He was a fascinating person, Chaim Kreiswirth. He knew Shas by heart. He was probably the leading Talmud Chacham in Europe, but except for knowing Shas, his personality and his insights and his appreciation of things was just blew everyone away. So I want to tell you a story that happened with Reb Chaim Kreiswirth, which I was so touched by. Reb Chaim used to go around the whole world collecting money for people. It was like a tremendous chesed personality who dedicated his life to helping out people, especially to marrying off orphans. That was like what he cherished the most was being able to help an orphan get married. So one time Reb Chaim Kreiswirth had to he came to England, and this was on his fundraising itinerary. So he came to England, and he came a little bit late at night. He had not yet davened Ma'ariv. He was scheduled to stay by the house of a certain Jew who was a very big Machnes Orchim. That fellow had a special apartment where people used to be able to come and stay as long as they needed. Machnes Orchim was like very big on the agenda of this person. So Reb Chaim Kreiswirth had scheduled ahead of time that he's going to be staying in this fellow's apartment that was special for people to be staying by. So when he came there, it was late at night, and he had not yet davened Ma'ariv, and there were no more local minyanim for Ma'ariv. So Baal Habayis told him, Chaim, you need to daven Ma'ariv. There's no minyanim here. Let's arrange for you at least that you should be able to daven in shul. So I have the key to the local shul here. and you'll be able to go daven Marav over there in Shul. So Chaim told him, no, if I don't have a minyan, so I think a holier place for me to be davening would be in your kitchen. Because your kitchen is a place that is dedicated for achnasas orchim, that is dedicated for chesed. So if I have a minyan, I'll go to a minyan. If not, rather than going to shul, I'm going to daven in a kitchen which is dedicated to doing chesed. Is that beautiful? Amazing. You know what? I found a source for this too. Reb Chaim Kreisler Zatzal, whenever he spoke to him, like any insight he had, it was always a mafurish Gemara. He always had a source for everything in the most fascinating ways. I, in this case, found a source for what Reb Chaim said here. Chaim did here. What's the source? By the Akedah. Where did Avram Avinu live at the time of the Akedah? He lived in Hebron. How do we know? Because Chazal tell us that Sarah died right after the Akedah. When Sarah died, where was she? In Hebron. That's where she's buried, right? Vatama Sarah bekiryas arba Hebron beretz Canaan. So Sarah died in Hebron. So evidently that's where Avram Avinu was. Makes sense. So now we got a question. Right after the Akedah, right after Akedah Yitzchak, right after the event, it says in the pasuk, "Vayakumu vayelchu yachdav el Beersheba." Why Beersheba? Avram Avinu is in Yerushalayim, right, by Rabbi, Maria, and he's living in Hebron, which is pretty close, and he goes all the way to Beersheba. Why Beersheba? Says the Ramban, listen to this. Says the Ramban, you know what there was in Beersheba? There was the Eshel of Avram Avinu. Vayita, Eshel be Beersheba. That's the place where he established his achnasas orchim. So Avram Avinu, after the Akedah, said, before I go back home, I want to go to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the place where I've established a foundation of chesed. And that's why Avram Avinu went from Harabais to Beersheba, even though he lived in Hebron. And then Sarah died, he came from Beersheba to Hebron. So I thought, wow, that's a source. That's a source for Rav Chaim Kreisler's insight. I prefer to daven in a place where chesed is being fulfilled. There was one of the Gedolei Hadar in Europe of about 100 years ago was someone named Reuven Sizzling. His name is not famous today, but he was one of the Gedolei Hadar, and to the extent that when the Chafetz Chaim wrote his Mishnah Brura, he went to Reuven Sizzling to ask for askama. One of the askamas on the Mishnah Brura is from Reuven Sion, who was one of the Gedolim of that generation. Reuven Sizzling related the following story, that he was invited to stay on Shabbos by Reb Nachumka. Reb Nachumka was the Rebbe of the Chafetz Chaim. So he was invited to Chafetz Chaim's Rebbe to stay there for Shabbos. He comes to the Shabbos meal, he comes Friday night, and the Baal Bayis is not there. So he waits and waits and waits and waits and waits until finally the Baal Bayis came. Quite a while later, Reb Nachumka, the Baal Bayis, wanted to appease Reuven Sion for waiting so long. So he told him the following. He said, one of the most inspiring Sfarim we have in print is called the Yisod B'Shorish HaAvodah. The Yisod B'Shorish HaAvodah is a sefer that guides and instructs on how to connect with tremendous love and devotion and simcha and romamus to fulfilling mitzvahs of the Torah. The author of Yisroel B'Sherish HaAvodah, who was a person with tremendous emotion, every Friday afternoon, he used to go to shul early to read Shir HaShirim. Not only to read Shir HaShirim, he had a Shir HaShirim that was written on a cloth, which he himself wrote, written on a cloth like a Sefer Torah, and he used to go to shul and read the Shir HaShirim with such amazing devotion that the tzaddikim of the generation said that when the malachim in Shamayim say Shira HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so when he starts reading Shir HaShirim, they stop, everybody listens, and then only when he finishes, the malachim continue with their Shira HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Rav Nachum said to Rav Tzion, I want to tell you something. The reason I came late is because there was an army of Russia that came to the area, and the army has Jewish soldiers. And when they're in town, they need a place where to eat Friday night. And I was running around town, finding places for these soldiers to be able to eat Shabbos Seudah, so they shouldn't be stuck without a Seudah on Shabbos. I want you to know, he said, that's doing chesed. And the Yisroel B'Sherish HaAvodah, who was reading the Shir HaShirim with such deep emotion, if the occasion would come up that there would be an army that would come to town, he would stop reading Shir HaShirim and take this and run around town and find places for the soldiers to be eating Friday night, just to be able to fulfill that chesed. That is the significance of what I was doing. That's how he was. That's how Rav Nachum got peace. Rav Tzion said, it's true, I came late. That's what I was involved in doing. Now, I'll try to bring all this closer to us. The Stipler was nifter. So Chaim Kanievsky, his son, sat Shiva. And when he sat Shiva, so at some point, the medical staff, the doctors who took care of the Stipler at the end of his life, came for the Nichum Avelim, for the Shiva by Chaim Kanievsky. When they were there, Chaim Kanievsky told them a story that happened with the Chafetz Chaim in Radin back in the day. In Radin, there was a pharmacy, and the pharmacist was a Jew, a religious Jew. Chafetz Chaim approached him and he said, I want you to know, he said, you can deal with business your whole day, whole life, and you can deal with chesed your whole life, and it's without changing anything. You can deal with business. Someone is sick, they come to you. You have a pharmacy, so you have whatever medicine is needed by the fellow who's sick. The medicine cost you 3 kopecks. You charge 5 kopecks. So you made 2 kopecks on the deal. Another 2, another 2, another 2, another 2. At the end of the month, you have your monthly income. What you do all day? Did business. Or, alternatively, you can do chesed all day. Because someone comes to you and they're sick, and they need a medicine, and you're the one who has the medicine, because you're a pharmacist. So they come to your pharmacy, and you take the medicine, and you give it to them as a chesed. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't take any money. It costs you 3 kopecks. You have to pay rent. You have to support your family. You can take 5 kopecks. That's okay. But what are you doing? What are you involved in? You're involved in chesed. You're involved in helping out someone with what they need. So Chaim Kanievsky said that story, and he told the doctors, he said, I would like to recommend to you that you try to connect yourself to that perspective. You're dealing all day with helping out people. Make sure that you're not doing it as a business. Make sure that you're doing it as a chesed. And he took a Sefer Chaya Olam that his father Stipler wrote. He gave everyone a Sefer Chaya Olam. He said, maybe if you learn this, it'll help you to get closer to the idea that I'm talking about. A short while after I heard that story, I had the occasion to speak to a girl who was a seminary girl. She had learned at seminary in Yerushalayim, and she went back to America. And when she was here for a visit, I had occasion to speak to her, and I asked her, what are you doing in life? So she said she's in nursing school. She's learning to be a nurse. So I said, wow, how delightful. I have a story to share with you. And I told her this whole story. And I told her, when you're going to be a nurse, you can do business your whole life and you can do chesed your whole life. You can do business, that's your vocation, that's your job, that's what you get paid for, that's what you get your salary for. So you come to the hospital 9 o'clock in the morning and you get out 5 o'clock in the afternoon and you fulfilled whatever your job is. And at the end of the month, you get your salary. Or you can do chesed your whole life. You can come to the hospital and pause for a minute and say, I'm going to help out people now that are not able to help themselves. They're stuck in bed. So I'm doing chesed with them. It's a fabulous chesed. You know what? To do that chesed, that's worthwhile. It was worthwhile to get up this morning just to be able to help out all these people. Perhaps more than that. It was worthwhile to be born just to help out these people. It's worthwhile to live. It makes life worthwhile. The merit that you have to do chesed with people, this is what life is all about. And then, while you're on the job, you'll be not fulfilling your job as a nurse, but you'll be living up to the tremendous merit of doing chesed throughout life by helping out people. It's a whole different ballgame. And the beautiful thing is, at the end of the month, you're going to get the salary. Same thing. But your whole day and your whole life is all involved in living up to the most beautiful aspiration a person has, and that is to live doing chesed. Before I continue, I just got to tell you a funny story that happened. This was in Miami Beach, and there was a fellow who was feeling bad. He didn't know, something was wrong with him, and doctors couldn't figure out what it was. So he went to the hospital, and he got a blood test because they wanted to see what's going with what the problem is. And while he was waiting for the results, he was lying down in bed, and he was really feeling glum and icky and downcast. And then a nurse comes in and looks at him and says, be positive. And he thinks to himself, what a chutzpah. She's telling me to be positive? I'm here sick, and they can't figure out what's wrong with me. She's healthy and on the job and going around. She's telling me to be positive? But then he thought, on the other hand, she's right. Why do I have to compare myself to her? I shouldn't be so downcast. So he told her, you're right. I should be more positive. So she said, that's not what I meant, sir. What I meant is we got the results from your blood test. It's a B positive. Yeah. So I told this girl, when you're a nurse, make sure that you connect to the ideal of what doing chesed all day is all about. And it's not easy. It's not easy because it's a job that the routine and the difficulty and the day in, day out, where's a person out? But nonetheless, this is the truth, that this is a fabulous thing to be connecting to, the concept of doing chesed. And then I told her I would like to take this concept a step further. You now are in nursing school. How's the school? Well, like every educational institution in the world, some classes are more interesting, some classes are more boring. That's how things are. Told her, every class you join should be with the idealistic excitement of doing chesed. Now you may ask, what chesed? You're just a girl in nursing school. You're not doing anything with anyone. No, you are. You know why? Because at the end, when you graduate and you're going to get your diploma, your certificate, your degree, whatever it is, and you're going to be able to be working as a nurse, you're going to be able to do chesed with hundreds and thousands of people through your career as a nurse. But only if you take this class, because you have to pass this class in order to get your certification. So the mitzvah of chesed with hundreds and thousands of people dictates that you should be taking this class. Im kacha, if so, this class is a fulfillment of chesed with hundreds and thousands of people, which Bezrat Hashem will benefit from the chesed that you can help them out by taking this class. Don't waste your time during attendance. There's 40 students in the class and they call out all the names, and when they call your name, you say, I'm here, and that took you 1 second, and everything before and after, what do you do? You're daydreaming. Don't waste your time. Use the time to contemplate a little bit, to build up excitement in your heart, saying, this is so beautiful that I'm able to take this class and be fulfilling the mitzvah of chesed with so many people. That's a very inspiring thought. And who's it relevant for? I guess it's relevant for someone who's learning to be a nurse in nursing school. But the truth is, it's relevant for every single one of us. You know why? Because we are all involved in some way or another doing chesed. Chesed, just by the very fact that you're there, you're part of your respective families, and you're part of helping out people. Everyone's here. The helping out, the family, children, grandchildren, neighbors. The world is enhanced by the fact that you're here. Be aware of that. Be aware. Just like I would tell a girl who's in nursing school, be aware of what a chesed you're fulfilling. I would tell every single one of us, let's be aware of the chesed that we are fulfilling just by virtue of our being what we are in the place we are, helping out people, being somebody's friend, being somebody's neighbor, being somebody's mother, grandmother, being what you are is really a wonderful fulfillment of chesed in wherever it is that you're holding in life. Wow. So you know what? That's something I would like to tell Yoni. I would like to tell Yoni, rather than seeing yourself as having been enlisted in Tzahal, and you have no choice, and you have to go through the 3-year process of being a soldier and with all that entails, let's reframe what it is that you're doing. You are contributing your part to the security and success of the entire Jewish people in Eretz Yisrael, because we all need what you're doing. Tzahal needs what you're doing. Tzahal needs accountants, just like it needs pilots, and you should see this from you should approach this from an idealistic point of view, from an excitement point of view. I know the job's not exciting, but when you take the step backwards and look at the broad perspective, what it is that you're doing, it is so fabulous, it's so inspiring, it's so uplifting that you're able to contribute your part, which is so needed by everyone in Eretz Yisrael that you're helping out. So the path to excellence is not in doing extraordinary things. It is in doing ordinary things extraordinarily well. We are all involved in doing. We're all involved in doing things that at face value seem somehow routine, run-of-the-mill, this is what it is. But when we go deeper and we go and look at it from a deeper perspective, so in the depth, there's so much chesed that we are attributing to all our surroundings, and being aware of this is something that brings us a kapara, and then we can end off with re-quoting Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai telling Rabbi Yeshua don't feel bad about the loss of kapara of Beis HaMikdash, but rather be aware that we have another kapara which is on par with what the Beis HaMikdash was able to be mechaper, and that is chesed, ki chesed chafasti v'lo zevach. I hope we can internalize these beautiful concepts and intensify the connection to chesed that we have to all of Am Yisrael.
Thank you so much. It was very inspiring. I'm happy we came. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Good for everybody else. So, ladies over there in the other part of the world, thank you so much for joining us. And all of you over here in Israel, we should be well on our fasts and we should be able to celebrate together with the building of the Beis HaMikdash. Thank you so much for everything. And we look forward to sharing good news to everybody. Bye for now.